Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. In this tutorial I want to have a look at the clone tool. I have already done one which was a look at the clone tool, but that was the beginner's guide part 12. This is a slightly more advanced look at the clone tool. But before I start, I do want to say that I am not an expert at this tool. I mean, I can use the tool fairly basically to, say for example, take out this mark on the pavement down here, or a couple of these scratches, cracks in the pavement, because that's about the limit of my use of the clone tool. It's nothing too major. And then the other day I was looking on one of my favourite YouTube sites that I've subscribed to, which is it's all one word, but it's PHLEARN, and they sort of pronounce it PHLEARN, where they just do Photoshop tutorials, but I like to look at them, and if I can, adapt them for use with PhotoPlus. And in this one, they claim that you can clone out any object, and I will say now it is a bit too advanced for me really, but I would advise you to check out that video, because you can get ideas for how to improve your cloning skills. And to a large extent it is either using the clone tool as it is, or using the paintbrush tool and sort of painting the background in where it's not there, or why it's hidden by the object that you're going to take out. Because I'm going to be trying to take out this waste bin here, because if I zoom into this waste bin, so normally I would not attempt this, because I would struggle to get the background into the area that I want to clone in, if you understand what I mean. But I'm going to attempt it using this PHLEARN's technique, and I'm sure there are plenty of other techniques that are just as valid and maybe easier for you to use, but I got on quite well using this method, so that is what I'm going to try. So first of all, just a quick recap on using the clone tool. The clone tool is found in the left hand side down here, and it is this one here. So I've put the cursor over it and the little flyout comes out and it tells you Alt click, so it just means you hold down the Alt and click on the area that you want to pick up the good pixels, and then you go to the area where you want to change the pixels, and then you click and it will replace them. So I will just come down here to these cracks in the pavement down here, and I will show you sort of what my limit was on when it came to cloning. Up the top here we've got some options. You've got the size, so you can increase the size. Hopefully you can see this circle that's floating around here, and change the size to whatever size you want. And like on the brush tool, you can hold down the left and right bracket keys and do that from the keyboard a lot easier. You got options of a soft brush, and the opacity, and the main one that I'm going to need, not so much on what I'm going to show you now, but a bit later, is like use all layers and put a tick in that if you haven't got one already. So basically you come down to an area of good pixels, for want of a better phrase, hold down the Alt key and then click, and then when you, as you can see, it's dragging those pixels around inside, and so you could put it anywhere. So but I'm just going to put it over this crack here, and then you see that crack in the pavement has gone. So if you want to pick a new area, you just hold down the Alt again, click, And there you have it. So I could go all the way around and hide all these cracks. So that's basically quickly how, as much as before, I would really attempt to use the clone tool. It's fairly easy. Nothing is being affected outside of the areas I want to affect. But when it came to cloning something like this, I was a bit stumped. I could probably have done this lower half of the wall, by the wall, fairly easily, because there's nothing really that different either side of it. But this top half here, where I've got the house in the background and these flowers and what have you, I would have seen that and I thought, no, I'll just put up with the waste bin being in the way, or disregarded the whole picture altogether. So I am going to try it. I've tried this a couple of times already, varying degrees of results, but as it's sort of basically in the background of the main picture, we don't really notice how bad it might be. So I will try again. Right, now in the video, the chap used the pen tool to select the item that he wanted to remove. There is a pen tool in PhotoPlus, and believe me, I've tried it a few times, and for the life of me, I can't get on with it. I'm still going to keep trying with it, but for this demonstration, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the polygon selection tool. So basically with this, I'm just going to click my way around the object in question, which luckily for me has a lot of nice straight edges, and so we'll make the watching of this quite a bit less painful than it could be. I could have used other tools, and if it does, like I've just done here, select a bit earlier, you can just come up to the add to selection button and then carry on adding to the selection. And slowly make your way around. And I mean, I don't know how good you are with this tool. I freely admit not to being too brilliant with it, but for this particular case I don't have a lot of choice but to use it. There we go. That's the. I'm not gonna. I can do this bit without selecting it. I'll do that bit separately. Now I've made a selection. I just want to modify that selection very slightly. I'm just going to raise the feather up to about 3 or 4. Not a vast amount. Probably not even 3. Let's try 2. So it's just fractionally outside the area that I selected. Right, so now you've got these marching ants around the outside for the selected area. Now I'm going to keep these marching ants through the whole, for virtually the whole of this process, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer. So you come down to the layers display area and click on this icon down here, and then I have a new layer. Now I'm doing this because the selection area that we've made means that the tool that we use, be it the paintbrush tool or the clone tool, and I'm guessing probably other tools, will only work within this selected area. And that is the thing I learned from this PHLEARN video, because when I've tried this sort of thing in the past, I was sort of accidentally cloning areas that I didn't want, and I was making a right mess of things. So as a quick demonstration of this, if I just select the brush tool and it's set on black, if I try and paint here, nothing happens. And if I paint inside the area and even come across it, so it's only affected anything with inside this area. So let me just undo that. So I'm now going to go back to the clone tool. Now because let me reduce the size of this now. Because we have all layers used, I can clone from an area out here, like the good pixels, and bring into the selected area those pixels. So I'm going to be using this wall here, so I hold down the Alt key, and as long as you follow the lines going across, you just can continue to follow those lines. I'll come from the other side. So I can even pick an area further away to try and break up some of the repetition in the wall, which I may have introduced earlier. So you can see quickly, if I come out again quickly, from a distance, you wouldn't know that that has been cloned out. So I'll come back inwards again. Now I've not gone too high just yet. So that is the easy part done, the wall. Now for the harder part, which is this top part here. What I will do is I will reduce the size of my brush tool, clone size, and I'm going to make it roughly the size of this window up here. And I'm going to press Alt and then click, and then I'm going to duplicate that window roughly about there. Similar goes for this window here. And then I'm going to follow this pipe downwards. And similarly goes for this pipe here. I may leave that bit there. So next I want to do is the top of this wall. Now I'm going to come from, say, about there. I'm going to just copy that bit over to there. Right, it's not perfect, but viewing from a distance, you're not going to notice that so much. The only problem I sort of have is this purple area just above the fence here. I'll see if I can grab some of this, maybe some of this greenery, if I lower the size down slightly and make it look like, no, it won't work. Let's try. This is where I could get into trouble. That's not going to work. Well, I could just use the wall area. Yeah, it might be better. So it looks like you've got the windowsill. As you can see, I'm not that great with this tool, but as it's going to be viewed from a distance, it's not going to be that noticeable, hopefully. So I zoom out, from a distance, that doesn't look too bad. Obviously, anybody looking at this properly close up would know that I've made a right dog's dinner of it. But your cloning skills may be 10 times better than mine, which wouldn't be difficult. I'll see if I can just continue these chains on slightly. There we go. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get there. So I'm now going to close down the marching ants area just by pressing Ctrl and D. Now, obviously I do have some outlines here, but I can get rid of those fairly easily just by again using, well, like I used on the cracks on the pavement earlier, by just cloning some areas from close by, and they will be removed and less noticeable. Even more so as if from a distance. I think that's about all of those ones. So then it's just really a case of removing this post down here. I'll just increase the size. Press Alt key. And then select a new area about there, let's say. Alright, so that's me done. I'll zoom out, and then for my purposes I think that is as good as it's going to get, and I'm quite happy with that, because that was something I would never been able to do before. I would never have attempted that. I would have just accepted the rubbish bin being in the way, because I've been trying to select really close to an object, and I'd be dragging in other free pixels into the image that I didn't want. But because I selected it and it cannot affect anything other than the inside the selected area, I knew I wasn't affecting any areas around it so much. So if I turn off the background layer, as you can see, this new layer, all it has got on it are the pixels that I've cloned in. So I hope that helps you. I would advise you to look at that PHLEARN video, because like I said, he's a much better at this than I am. He's an expert professional, and he used the paintbrush tool for the image that he used the clone tool as well, but he used the paintbrush tool because the background of the area that he was cloning the image out from was sort of blurred. He just used the paintbrush tool to give you the impression of the colours and what have you that he was having to replace, and then added a bit of texture, and then from a distance it looked as though it was all as that picture was taken originally. So do check out that video. I will add the link to the Facebook group page so you can view that from there. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and like I've said at the beginning, I'm sure there are probably maybe better ways for you to use the cloning tool, and you are quite welcome to explain to us how you would do it, and you'll probably make a much better job of it than I did. So I'm sorry for my lack of skills, but I hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.